be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. Jesus entered the temple area and proceeded to drive out those who were selling things, saying to them, "It is written, 'My house shall be a house of prayer,' but you have made it a den of thieves." And every day he was teaching in the temple area. The chief priests and the scribes and the leaders of the people, meanwhile, were seeking to put him to death, but they could find no way to accomplish their purpose, because all the people were hanging on his words. The Gospel of the Lord. In both of these places in the readings, there is a sacredness in the temple. A sacredness in the temple. The temple is a place of sacrifice. And of course, for a Jew, there's only one place for a sacrifice, and that's the temple. There is no sacrifice in a synagogue. The synagogue, they break open the scrolls, and they read its contents. But the temple is a place of the sacrifice. So in the place of the sacrifice, is something special. It's something very special. And so today the temple is special. That's here. It's in the church. It's in the church building. Church building is something very special. It's something dedicated to God. It's dedicated to God. So when we look at everything else here in the church, it's dedicated to God. Everything we have at the Mass is dedicated for the service of God. Even like the vestments, it's dedicated to God. It's not about the priest or anything like that wearing fancy clothes, or whatever. You don't see the priest walk out there with this stuff on. I really like him. What's going on with that guy? He's kind of dressed weird, so this is liturgical wear. This is actually what we wear. This actually form of like even the garments is actually ancient. The way this is designed is actually ancient. It goes back, if you ever notice like icons, ancient icons made in the 300s, 400s of St. Clement and stuff like that. You'll see the yoke, and that's ancient. It's not a fashion. Everything here is not about fashion. See, unfortunately what happened is after Vatican II, they decided, everything's just a fashion. It's just what you... No, absolutely not. Everything here has its purpose and it has meaning to it. You don't just change that stuff whimsically. Even like the altar, we got the stone altar, the chalices. The chalices are sacred. We handle them with care. That's why it's like, it's not wine in the chalice. That is the precious blood. So many people say, the wine. No, the precious blood. The bread, the wafers. No, Jesus. That's the body of Christ. That's really important to understand. All those little things, they make a difference on how we react to what's going on in here, because what's going on here is sacred. It's something very, very holy. And especially as Americans and in modern society, we're oblivious to it. If holiness came and smacked us across the face, we would be like, what? Huh? We'd be so slow to react to it and to understand. There's something special going on here. So in everything, when we look at all these things here, even like holding these books and stuff like that, we should be respectful, right? Even like, the thing too is like, everybody's like, Eucharistic ministers, EMs, Eucharistic ministers. No, extraordinary ministers of Holy Communion. That's the official title. Extraordinary ministers, because there are ordinary ministers to the Eucharist, and that is the priests, deacons, and acolytes. Those are the ordinary ministers. Those are the ones who can do the purification of the vessels, because they've been trained to handle sacred objects. They've been trained to purify, to make sure that when the chalice is purified, that there is not a drop of the precious blood in there, that is absolutely clean. There has to be a training in that. Even when you look at the purificators, the cloths that I use to clean everything out, you can't just throw them in the wash. Because what's thrown in the wash, what gets washed out, goes down the sewage. Well, that can't happen because that's the precious blood. When we wipe that with that cloth in the chalice, that's the precious blood. You can't just throw that in the wash. It actually has to get washed in a bucket 3 times. And then it gets dumped outside where nature takes its course. If it decays there. A lot of people don't understand, like, all the details that go on there are very important. So many people will complain, why is so church detailed? Why are they so picky about all the details of somebody? Come on. He said, no. Look, if this is Jesus, this is important. If this is really the love of your life, this is really important. This is God. This is our maker. This is our creator. And all these things serve them. So many people look at the priests and deacons like, they're just people. Yeah, they are people. They're fallible people, but they've been ordained by God. These hands, look, I've sinned. But these hands are holy, not because of what I've done, but because of what God has done. God has anointed them with oil so that he can do his work here on this altar and become present to us. He needs somebody, and I don't know anybody who is sinless. He needs people. He needs men to stand up and be willing to be priests. And so, we sin. But he makes us holy, and that's why we need to respect the priests. We need to respect the bishops. Do they sin? Yeah, okay, we understand that. Church doesn't hide any of that stuff going on. We acknowledge it, but we still go on. Because God is far more powerful than the sins of priests. So we give due respect to God. And when we worship, what are we doing when we worship? We're giving due praise to God. We give God what is due to him. That's worship. Giving what is due to God. It's not about what I get out of it. It's about what I give to God and trusting that God will give back to me. And he does. That's why we have peace when we walk out the door after Mass. Because we've encountered God, the sacred, the Holy One. So we always have to be careful of not making the place of God a den of thieves. That we want to beautify it. Because it gives us hope. When we see everything in here, how it points to God, the stained glass windows are pointing up. The peaks are pointing up to God. It reminds us of God. What's kind of interesting here is this building praises God. You don't realize it, but it praises God. You got 7 walls in here, in the apse. 7 walls. The stones. That's symbolizing the 7 days of creation. And then you got 7 windows. The sacraments, the 7 sacraments that bring the light of Christ to our lives, into this holy sacred temple, our bodies. So everything praises God. Everything glorifies God. The wood of the pews reminds us of the wood of the cross, and it supports us. The wood of the cross supports us by the price of the blood of the Lamb. Everything. The marble altar, the marble on the altar reminds of the bedrock foundation of Jesus Christ that our church is founded on. All those things, the relic in there. We got the communion of saints. 3 steps into the sanctuary, the thrice holy God. Some sanctuaries have 2 steps, the divinity and the humanity of Jesus, symbolizing that. This is up Mount Calvary. I mean, everything. Even like this decoration before here, it's about the produce. Okay, I know we got the pheasant here, but it's about the produce. We bring our offering, we bring our produce before God as a holy and acceptable sacrifice, our sacrifice involved in his sacrifice. This is where we meet God. There is no other holy place, there's no holier place on earth than in the Catholic Church. That's awesome. And that's why we cherish it. We cherish the beauty. It brings us back, that lifts our soul up to him, especially when we need consolation, when we need his grace. The beauty of the church serves everybody. Anybody who comes in can benefit from the beauty of the church. That's an awesome gift that we have. So we raise up our voices today here and allow the church building here to inspire us to raise our hearts and our voices to God, to praise his majesty, to give due worship to him, giving him our best.